This is NGINX Architecture Part 2. When you spin up NGINX, the master process will start up, and it first needs to know whether it needs to act like a web server. It needs to know where the root files exist, the HTML, the CSS, whatever the language you're serving there. It needs to know whether it needs to act like a layer 7 load balancer or layer 4 proxy. All of this information is stored in the config file, so that's the first thing that the master process right here reads. That config file is obviously a very privileged information. No one can just read that config file because it has sometimes the private and the public key for the SSL configuration. The next thing it needs to do is also listens on port 80 or port 443 or any other port that you configure. So also these listening, anything you listen less than 1,000, port 1,000 is a privileged information. So all of this is done by the master process. Once this is done, the master process will spin up a bunch of other child processes to do the rest of the work. Because NGINX is a caching engine, it will spin up two different processes, the cache loader and the cache manager. The interesting work is actually right here, which is the worker processes, which we talked about in another episode. The default configuration is for each CPU core, you get one single worker process that actually does the entire work here. Reading requests, responding to requests, but this number is configurable.